Hi guys, it's Dakota. I hope everybody's doing well today. So today I want to talk about a subject that it's probably not going to sound like, oh, what is that to you? I'm sure you've heard of it before. But if you'll just watch the video, be patient. I might have some things that perhaps you'll find useful that maybe you hadn't thought about or seen or heard of, whatever. Maybe you have. Um, But that is cord magic or knot magic, thread magic. Um, I've heard it called string. These are all the things that you can use. You can use cord, you can use string, you can use a thread, jute, hemp, you can use grapevines. I have done that before because I was using it in a fire spell and I wanted something that was really natural to use. And so I went out, here in the woods, we have wild grapevines all over growing. They're extremely invasive. They will crawl up your trees and suffocate your trees and kill them. So, but yeah, you can use that. I, um, I did try one time to use the briar vines because they have thorns. And yes, I did. Now it was tricky. It didn't work so well because of the thorns. I think I was probably getting scratched too much, and I was like, "Yeah, this is not what I want. I don't want that energy in and on me." So I avoided the briars for my cord magic or knot magic, whatever you want to call it. Now, so as I say these things in my head, I'm like, oh, they're going to disagree with me. Okay, this is just me and how I see it and how I use it. So if it doesn't resonate with you and you don't think that's what it is, then you don't have to. I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm just trying to give, people an idea of what you can use. And because if you don't have cord, and you need to do this right now, but you have some thread, why not? I mean, that's just how I think. Because again, I'm going to say it over and over again, it is about the intention and the end result of that intention. Because what you're doing is by tying that knot, you're actually binding your intention into that thread, and then you're into the cord. And whatever you do with that cord afterwards, then that would be up to you. And we're going to talk just a little bit about that here at the end. Okay, so before I go any further, I just want to mention real quickly that this does have to do a little bit with primitives, with a primitive item that I'm going to show you in a minute. But I know some people don't really understand or know, let me put this up just a little bit, know what primitives are. And so I chose to sit in the dining room today because I just wanted, well, one, because it's freezing cold out in the witch cottage and it takes couple of hours to get it cold or to get it warm, and I just didn't want to waste the energy. Plus today, and those of you that shop my store will be happy to know, I am back trying, we'll see how it goes, how long my back can hold up. I am trying to bring back the intention candles. I do make the intention oils that I cannot keep in stock. Thank you so much. I'm glad that you really enjoy them that much. It makes me feel all giddy inside. But I haven't made the candles in a few years, and I finally decided that I was going to give it a shot, and we'll see how that goes. So I am making them this weekend, and it may be next weekend before I actually have them complete and have them in the store. So hopefully that works out. Okay, so all right, so primitives, and how did that all come out? So we're at the store putting together our Yule table, and we got a new book in called Cord Magic. I'm sorry, I cannot remember her name. I want to say it's something Williams. I'm so sorry. I didn't purchase the book for myself. I didn't get it, but it is, well, actually, we've already sold out. It was only in our store for about 2 weeks, and it sold out. And I think one of the reasons it did is because when we put together our Yule table, so, most of you know I had an antique store. We were in the antique business for over 20 years, and then we owned an antique store for about 13 of those years. I specialized in primitive antiques, and primitives are things like these old handmade pottery jugs, which were probably moonshine jugs. And this right here is an old handmade on the farm primitive hay rack. Those little, or hay rake, not rack, rake. These things hanging on it, those are bells. That's not part of the rake, but it has little, little spokes on the top part there, and I just hung some old bells on there. Down here, these are old dough bowls, where the breads and stuff would be mixed and made. Old railroad lantern, scale, and really anything that, like this right here, is a primitive jelly cabinet. And most likely what happened was the you know wife, the mama, needed a cabinet to put her canned goods in. And so she tells Daddy, and Daddy goes out into the barn and he finds some old lumber and he builds this cabinet for her and throws some mustard paint on it. And before you know it, you have this old primitive, because it's very rustic, handmade jelly cabinet. So prims were sort of, so that was, and those were, and so today we call those primitive antiques. They weren't called that back then. Whereas this glass case right here is not primitive. It wasn't. This is after hard time farm life. So this was more. It's not really Victorian. Maybe Depression. So the 1940s, maybe 1920s, 30s, 40s, right in there. So that's what this little curio cabinet is. Okay. So anyway, we did the Yule. We were decorating the Yule table at the store, and it needed a little something. And I still carry some knick-knacky, primitive, and antique pieces in the store, and we actually use them in some of our displays. And I think one of the reasons is, and one of the reasons why I personally love primitive antiques so much, is they have this energy about them. They have this ancestral energy about them that just makes you feel good, like this right here is one of my favorite pieces. This is an old primitive jar, probably a pickle jar or some kind of canning jar. A jar. It's wooden, and I love it. I mean, I just love it. I love the energy of it, the feel of it. Of course, wood is always feels good, but the thing about prims is, not only do they have this ancestral kind of feel about them, or this, just this ancestral feel. I don't know how else to say it. Warm feel to it, but also this creative feel to it, because they did have to think outside of the box. If he wanted to, if the farmer needed to rake up his hay, but he doesn't have the money to go and buy a rake in town, he got creative and made his own rake. They didn't have anything to store their moonshine in. So they made pottery, jugs, the cabinet from old wood out in the barn, the dough bowls, turned from a piece of wood probably that they found somewhere. So there was this creativeness also. And so I think it's really awesome to have a few antique pieces around on your altar, or when you're doing some sort of magical crafting, especially when you're trying to call in your ancestors or that ancestral energy. For me, it just really brings about this really unique energy. So I gathered up a couple of things that we had on our shelves. We have one small corner now that still has our antique stuff in it. And I pulled out a couple of prim pieces and I put them on the table. And then one of my employees said, wow, that would be really good for cord magic. And I went, yeah. So so that got my wheels turning. All right. So we have that part. Um, but then I started thinking over this past week, I started thinking about cord magic and knot magic. It would be fun to do a video on that. I know that there's probably hundreds of videos. I don't know. I didn't check. Because I think mine's probably going to be just a little bit different. Maybe not. I don't know. Um, but I have done, and I started thinking about this. I have made witches ladders before. Now, which is about tying knots, and you tie them in a sequence. Okay, there's a certain sequence that they're supposed to go in. Supposed to go in. That's somebody's idea of what supposed to is. Because again, there's no rules and there's no law book that says this is how you have to make a witch's ladder. It just isn't. I know there's a little chant and a little rhyme that goes with it, like as each time you tie a knot, it's something like, I don't know the whole thing, something like with knot of one, um, this spell has begun. With knot of two, uh, may may this spell come true, something like that. And there's these 9 different chants that you're supposed to say while you're tying the knot. And that's fine. I don't have an issue with that, but it's not for me. Number one, I don't really like what somebody else has written for my own magic, for my own spell work. So I want to try to create my own. And I'm not poetic, so most of the time it doesn't rhyme. I got a video on that. Go back and watch that video. I don't rhyme. I don't, not that because I don't, because I think it's dumb or because I think it's silly or any of those things. It has nothing to do with that. I am not good with poetry, and for me to sit there and go, let's see, I want to try to do this. So let me think, what rhymes with blah blah blah, what rhymes with that. And then I'm more focused on what rhymes than what my intention is. So I don't like that. So when I am doing knot magic, cord magic, a witch's ladder, whatever it is that I'm doing, my words have to do with my intention. And I'm telling you, chances are they don't rhyme. If they do rhyme, it was just a fluke that it rhymed. I don't sit there and try to make things rhyme. That's just me. If you do and it comes to you, then that's great. You have that sense of creativity with yourself. You have that gift. I do not. So anyway, all right. Um, so I thought about that, and I'm like, okay, well, I've made a witch's ladder before, and I have used cord magic before, or string magic, whatever you want to call it. And if you go back to my series that I did on the elements, you'll see where when I think it was when I did the very last one, when I actually did the elemental ritual, and I use a thread. It was a red thread. Why red? Because that's what I had. That's all I had. I don't care what color it is because I'm putting my intention into it. So all I had was red, and I literally tied the 4 candles together in their quarters, and I bound them together. So that's what tying your knot does. It binds your intention into that magical string that you have, and it binds it. Okay. um, so and we're looking for that end result. So for me, that's what I'm saying. So for me, do I want my color? If I'm doing something that, so let me use this as an example. When I used a grapevine, I went out and used a grapevine. We have grapevines everywhere. And I went out and I cut a piece of grapevine, and I tied knots as I was thinking of the intention, what it was that I wanted. Because what I was doing a fire spell, first of all. Okay, I was doing something that involved fire. No, not you. Dakota and fire, what? That's unusual. um yeah, so I was doing a fire spell, but I wanted to do sort of like this witch's ladder thing. And so I took the grapevine because I didn't want to burn any kind of cord or anything in the fire. I just didn't want to do that. I wanted something natural, so I used the grapevine and I tied it knots, And when it was done, then I put that in the fire. Voila, it happened. Okay, so you can pretty much use anything that you can tie together. Um, now, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. What I'm leading up to. The thing is that I had never done any research other than just, maybe read a book or read a blog or watched a video on it. I've known about witches' ladders probably ever since I started witchcraft some, 30 plus years ago. And but I never researched it. I never did anything about it. Like, well, where did that even start? Where did Knot Magick start? So I did a little bit of research, and I want to talk to you a little bit about that because for me, I teach the Witchcraft 101 course at my shop, and as you know, and as my past students know, and as the upcoming students know, we start from the ground up. We build a house. We start with a foundation, the root of it. And I think without that, why are you doing it? But it never crossed my mind until just this week about cord magic, right? I mean, where did it start? Why am I doing it? What is that? So I did a little bit of research. Okay, so this is what I found. So back around, I don't know, the furthest I could get was like the 4th century BC, excuse me, 4th century BC. So the uh, Phrygians in the city of Gordium in Anatolia. I have my notes right here. It's as far back as I could find anything on knot magic. And so back then they were getting ready to the Phrygians were getting ready to select a new king. And so they knew that he was coming on a horse, this man was coming on a horse-drawn carriage. And so when he got there, the yoke that was attached to the horses was or attached to the cart, I guess, was tied in this really intricate knot that had no beginning and no end. And the deal was whoever could untie that knot would then be the new ruler of the then world, okay? And or would have the power, not the ruler, but the power. Would untie whoever could untie that knot that had no beginning and no end, would gain the power of the world. That's what I read. I wrote it down because I knew I would not get that right. So that was as far back as I could get. I also read a thing that thousands of years ago, and I am reading my notes, that thousands of years ago, ropes were made of fibers. And so then that hit me because I went, fibers. So then there you go, like it doesn't say what kind of fiber, it just says fiber. And there are some plants that you can, uh, pull apart and have these little fibrous strings. So you could use something like that. That's how I saw that. And they were used to lock and bind doors. That's how they locked their doors, locked and bound their doors. Also, they would any of their personal treasures, their personal items that they treasured and stuff, they would wrap those in animal fur, animal skins. And then they would tie those in special knots and sort of like that lock and key thing. So I thought that was really, really interesting. So, there you go. I mean, here we are today in modern witchcraft, and yet really, when we look back, I mean, when I look at these crocks, the majority of them were sealed with a corn cob in the top and then sealed around the corn cob with wax. Well, doesn't that sound familiar? Those of you who make spell bottles. That's what we do, And so So where did that come from? Well, I know at least it came as far back as these, and the tying of cords and knots and making them difficult was to bind, was to keep that energy bound. So there you go. So now I have a little bit of insight into cord magic, knot magic, whatever you'd like to call it. And I didn't read the book. I have not read the book, and now we're sold out of the book, so I have to order more. Um, but anyway, okay. So then that brings me to what we're gonna do, or what I want to show you. I'm actually really not gonna do it, I don't think, but I'm just gonna show you. But let me look at my notes real quick. Um, Okay, so like I said, binding is basically when you tie a knot, you're basically binding your intention into that. So there again, if we talk about the color of the cord, you know, if you can get the right color, then the more correspondences you put with your spell work, any of your spell work, not just cord magic, but any of your spell work, the better it is. I mean, the better chance you have, in my opinion, of that spell coming to fruition and having your end result happen. Although sometimes things happen for the right way and not so much. So we just never know. But I just feel like, the more you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it is how I feel about that. It really does come to intention. So that's the point. The tying of the knot for me is about focus. It's about focus. So that's why, just like when I do candle magic, and I'm literally carving into my candle my intention, whether it's a symbol, whether it's a sigil, whether it's the words, whatever it is. Do I think that that's going to cause this candle, this tangible wax pillar, to magically do something for me? It is the focus and the intention. The focus and the intention is what gets you places, in my opinion. Okay. So what can we do with that besides just taking a cord and tying knots in it? Now, this is the only cord I had. It's small, it's maybe, I don't know, a foot long. I just found it upstairs in my crafts. Yarn, you could use yarn. I should have gotten my yarn out. But anyway, there you go. Just a cord. That's all it is. Actually, there was like 4 strands twisted together, and that's why it's curly Q like that. I just took it apart, and here you go. All right, so you could take this green. Let me think. Green, prosperities. First thing that comes to my mind. If I want to manifest some money coming in, some money flow coming in, I'm going to choose my words wisely. I'm going to choose my intention wisely. I don't want somebody knocking at my door in the middle of the night and telling me a loved one has passed away and I got the inheritance. So I'm going to choose my words wisely. And as I do that, I just simply tie the knot. How you tie the knot is up to you. That's just a basic knot right there. One string, just like it's a knot. That's all it is. If you have a special way of making your knots, make it that way, because then that's your special way. That's your way of saying, this is mine. This is my special way of doing that. And so there you go. And like I said, with the witch's ladder, if you look it up, it's everywhere. So if you look it up, you'll see it takes 9 knots, and they start with the first knot at the top, and then the second knot here, the third knot here, and then the fourth knot and the fifth knot, then the sixth knot and the seventh knot. Forget how it goes. Anyway, there's a special way that you do it. When you get ready to untie, if you wish, like let's say this is a releasing. So first you put in your intention of what you want, And then as you release, you see it releasing. So you're binding and releasing. You can just bind and leave it. If it's for protection, bind your intention and you leave it. All right. So some of the things that I like about cord magic, knot magic, whatever. When I make my little gree mojo bags, whatever you prefer to call these, little sachets, pouches. I'm laughing because there was a thing on how do you say that word? Sachet or satchel? I don't know. I say satchel. Okay, your pouch, your little baggie. What I like about these are this little one, look, already has a red cord. It already has a knot in it. But guess what? I'm going to undo the knot and I'm going to pull that string out. I'm going to pull it out. And then I'm going to put herbs, amulets, whatever, roots, whatever intention, whatever spell I'm working on. I'm going to put that inside my little baggie. And then I already have the cord to tie it up with. Same with this. This is just the little cheesecloth little tea bag thing, right? You put your tea in there, your herbs, and you put that in your cup so that it doesn't get herbs and stuff all over. It's just like it's a tea strainer. That's what it is. But look what it has. It has a string that comes with it, and the string comes out. So now you can do the same thing. Put your spells. You have a petition? Awesome. Put that in there. Put your petition in there. Now it's in there. You've pulled your string out, and then this is what I do. Okay? I don't want to pull the string out because I'm going to use this tea bag. This is my last strainer I have. I gotta bring some home from the store. All right. So anyway, I'm going to then, put the bag together, and I'm going to take my cord. I'm going to do it with this one so you can see. Okay? I'm going to take my cord. I've got all my goodies in here, right? I've got herbs, maybe some crystals, maybe some roots, maybe I've got my petition in there. Whatever I have in there, I've got it in there. And then I'm going to take my cord, and if I'm manifesting, I'm going to go clockwise. And if I'm trying to release something, I'm going to go counterclockwise. And I'm going to wrap it 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to tie 3 knots. I'll just tie 3 knots at the end. 1, 2, 3. Then I'm going to go around again. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to tie 3 knots. And then I'm going to go around again. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to tie it off with 3 knots. So 3 times 3, 9, right? So there you have how you do that. And you do it with any of your things. This is why I like these so much, is because it already comes with a little cord. If you are making a mojo or a little gree, a protection bag, a healing bag, a love bag, whatever you are trying to manifest, you put it in there. And again, when you are doing this and you're wrapping it, it's 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 1, the spell has just begun. 2, may the spell come true. Whatever you like to say. Same thing when you're tying your knots. There's 3 sets of 3 knots. That's 9. So 3 being that magical number, 9 being that magical number. So that's a really awesome thing that you can do. Doing candle magic, same thing. Take your cord. 1, 2, 3. You need something longer than this, folks. If you're doing candle magic, don't use a cord like this. It's too big, very flammable. That's why I like to use thread. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Same thing, right? With the candle. Put your petition. You want to use your petition? Do this, which I've done before. I think I did it. I don't know if I've done it or not. Oh, hawk just flew by my window. I'm going to wrap my petition around my candle and just wrap it around there. take my cord, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to wrap my petition around my candle. Now, if I'm trying to manifest, I'm trying to bring something in, I'm going to go clockwise, and I'm going to put the petition with the words that I wrote. I don't have anything on it, but let's just say I wrote words on there. I'm going to put that facing the candle counterclockwise. I'm trying to bring in prosperity. I'm trying to bring in a job. So the words go towards the candle 3 times around. If I'm trying to release something, I put the words out and I go counterclockwise with my string. Counterclockwise with my string. All right. Now, let me tell you one last thing that I have done that was really cool. I could not find anything like tangible to show you, but most of you know about cross stitching. You know about cross stitching or even embroidery. You can do it even with embroidery. This is what I have done. You know, embroidery and cross stitching is all about knot tying. You got to tie knots, right? I took my cloth that had the pattern on it, or the side that was going to be exposed, that you're going to be looking at when you hang it on your wall. On the back side, I wrote out my petition. I wrote out my petition on the back of my cloth. And then when I'm working with it and tying my knots, I mean, it was great. I tied that into my picture. So it was always there. So if you're doing a cross stitching, you know, as a gift for someone, and you want to add a little kind of something magical that they maybe, you know, wouldn't approve of otherwise. I mean, I don't know. That's probably not ethical, but I'm just saying, you know, those are things that you can do. Yeah, don't do that. That's not ethical. Regardless, it's not ethical. Okay, now where do the prims come in? Come on, get on with it. Okay, so this is what we were putting on our Yule table at work. These are old, primitive bobbins, factory string and yarn bobbins. So for the machines. And I just laid them on there because of the color, red, green, you know, and it was just giving the look. This one still has its string on there. You can see it's dirty. Okay. See there? Candle holder. Stick this in a bowl of sand, so that it holds it upright. You've done your Knot Magic around this or around your candle. This candle won't fit, but the chime candles will. Something like that you can use these for. Here's another one. This is an old spool. Same thing. These are wooden, old wooden spool. This one has green, kind of thick string. And these are probably 2 of my favorite. These are here at home. I have these at the house. And when I started thinking about what my employees said about, oh, you could use those for Knot Magic, I went, yeah, you can. And so I have these. I will not use these because these are part of my my house. But I have these spools, yellow and green, just plain brown on the bottom, yellow and green. And you know, how could you use that? How could you use that? Think outside the box. I mean, it's Franklin Rayon Corporation, number 80, or number 30. This one doesn't have any writing on it. But you know, how could you incorporate string magic, chord magic with that? Um, I loved it. You know, I loved it. And could you just even sit these around your cord or something like that? Um, yeah, so I think my favorite thing was writing my petition on the back of a cross stitch that I had done years ago, years ago. And it wasn't even a petition, really. It was just a word. And I just wrote it on the back, not because I was trying to really do the knot magic or anything like that, but I was infusing that energy into my work. And, you know, and I just thought that was a really cool thing to do. And if you wanted, you could even put it on the front part because you're going to cover it with stitching anyway. So that way it's facing out. You might could think of something like, you know, facing out is releasing and facing in is manifesting whatever you want. But I just really loved that whole idea of using these. And you know, you could even do something like this, using this and doing your wrapping 1, 2, 3, tie a knot, 1, 2, 3, tie a knot, and just put this on display. Put this on your altar, and now you've got your cord, your cord magic right there on your altar. And it just looks like, or put it in your house somewhere, put it in your kitchen or your living room for, you know, to remove energy of, you know, any kind of energy that's not serving your highest good. And no one will know. It just looks like an old spool, and you can tell that story. That's all it is. It's an old commercial sewing machine or something bobbin, and so you can use that. So there's ways to hide your magic if you have to, um, if you want it exposed but you don't want everyone to know about it. So yeah, so that's what I had today. And with using these nifty little things, I'm going to figure out a way. I want to use these somehow, not these because these are just part of my display. But you know, now I'm going to be on the lookout if I can find more at an antique store or something that I will use specifically for magic. And I don't know if I would just sit them around while I'm tying it, or use the actual item itself to tie my you know, to tie my string, my cord with. The other thing for doing cord magic is just doing a you know, there cords are used in for initiation with a lot of covens, and you could use a braid. You can have 3 strings and braid it if you want. Braid the 3 strings, if you know, or however you see fit to do on your ritual cord. So there's all different kinds of things that you can do. So just remember, like in magic, no matter what it is that you're using, it is about intention. It is about that end result. What is the end result? What is it that you're trying to, what are you trying to do? And do some research. Get out of the box and try to think about um, creative ways to make your magic manifest somehow. Um, if you need to use the words, the chants that are out there, then use them. You know, if that empowers you, if that brings you empowerment and makes your spell feel empowered, then by all means, that's what you're going to want to do. I mean, that's what we're here for. We want to try to empower our spells as much as possible. So if you can use the color, absolutely. You know, if you can't, absolutely, because here's the power. Power is within us. And it's all really, truly, it is about your intention. And the cord truly is about your focus, is about your focus. 9, why 9 knots in a witch's ladder? Because 9 is the magic number, 3 times 3. So, yeah. So there you go. That's what I wanted to talk about today. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you try it. maybe it gave you some ideas that you can use. You can find so many things at thrift stores, yard sales, garage sales, whatever. Don't go out and spend a lot of money on antiques or whatever. There's all kinds of things. You just have to get out of that mundane mindset um, in doing what the book says, or what TikTok says, or what YouTube says, or whatever. Those are all great ideas. They're things to give you an idea, but you be you. You be you. And it's a lot more fun. And I think the results are a lot stronger because the universe, that higher power, that source, wherever you're sending that magic, whatever powers you're using, um, appreciates the time and the effort that and the research that you have put into your work, right? So yeah, so it does matter. All right, so anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and just checking my notes, making sure yeah, that was all that I had. Anyway, I kind of like that, and I'll be working on trying to figure out some other ways to use use spools and stuff. And maybe I'll pull those spools that I have at the store now. Get them while they're hot, everybody. All right, folks, hope you have a great week. I'm going to go back to making my candles before I get too tired. And enjoy and be safe as always. And we'll see you next time. Bye. Love you.